Do you want to meet Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander, the real Frog Brothers? Join us, the Frog Brothers Podcast, August 20th and 21st in San Antonio, Texas for the Summer of Santa Carla presented by Kings of Horror. Help celebrate the 35th anniversary of one of our favorite films, The Lost Boys. With screenings, autographs, artists, vendors, oddities, readings, comics, food, and more. Plus your favorite podcast hosts, Alec, Justin, and Nick. Go to socialrevoltstore.com for tickets and be sure to follow Kings of Horror on Instagram for updates. Looking to win tickets? Listen to the Frog Brothers Podcast from now until the event and be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts for more chances to win. At Frog Bros Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. We'll see you in Texas.
Yeehaw!
Welcome back to Haunted by Tapes with the Frog Brothers Podcast.
What are you guys thinking?
I really liked a lot of this movie. There's a few things I could nitpick in it.
I have one nitpick, but that's it.
What?
We won't get there yet. It's
Toward the end?
yeah.
Well, let's break it down.
That's where a lot of people's nitpicks are, is it? Toward the end.
The big,
At the very end.
the opening, right, with the sitcom set.
Fucking amazing.
Creepy as hell, right?
And terrifying, yeah. It just gave me Alf vibes, but
Yeah,
like
I was to say, I like how that shows Alf, but
if
it's a
Alf
chimpanzee.
was like a chimpanzee, yeah.
A real
And you're like,
chimpanzee.
okay.
And if Alf was not in the show intro except for one shot, because Alf is in the whole intro with holding the camera and shit, like he's at least doing that, but they didn't imply that the monkey was holding the camera, and they should have.
Well, you open with this extremely unsettling, like violent scene.
We're
and-
gonna get hate mail from the animal community for calling a chimpanzee a monkey.
I am the animal community.
Yeah, I'm a fucking vegan. What are you talking about
You're
here?
like, how dare you? A chimpanzee is not a monkey.
Well, we're just going by this what we know here, Nick. Thanks for trying to clarify for us.
Yeah, I mean that's good. Did we call it a monkey actively?
I don't think any of us did.
I don't even
thought you
recall
went that way.
mentioning
You called
what
it a
was.
monkey.
Chimpanzee, I think is what we called it,
You
right?
called it a monkey.
Did I? When?
Right before I said we're gonna get hate mail from the.
Oh.
Okay. It's fine though.
All
It's a
right.
common mistake, like porpoise and.
Well, and clearly you're not
dolphin
going to have
and alligator and.
a real chimpanzee do that these days, so that was pretty fucking
I'm
good.
not a fucking expert on primates. You know what I mean? I didn't study these motherfuckers.
It's pretty fucking good CGI there, though, huh?
Yeah, it works.
For the chimp? Mm-hmm. I saw someone insult it, say it was bad. Or another podcast or something, I think.
There's some.
I don't remember it
I
looking
mean,
bad.
just like anything else, there's a few lighting things that kind of give it away, but for the most part, like, do you really want a chimp doing that in real life when they really have that strength to do that? Like, I wouldn't risk that. That doesn't make any sense. It seems like a terrible
If
idea.
you're looking for flaws.
Like, why on earth would you intentionally put a chimpanzee in a way to harm somebody to do a film scene when you could do it
so that could
CGI?
really happen. And then-
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't need that. But that is a terrifying opening to a movie that you're like, everyone's kind of knows this is about aliens, right? It's been pretty
Yeah, I was wondering how that was
going
going to link in. And
I thought that was interesting. A lot of people didn't like that aspect, and I'm like, no, this explains a whole lot about this character. There's so much character development for, and I forget names because I only saw this one.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, the big overarching theme to me, one of them, out of I guess a couple things that you could talk about, is the man attempting to control beast. Mm-hmm. Especially with that character.
yes, it's a reoccurring theme
with
throughout
the
the movie.
chimpanzee,
He's
with
watching
the
them.
horses
He's watching
and
how it goes wrong when you try to control a beast. Basically, on the sitcom, that's his experience there. He's seeing how it goes wrong, and then he still is like.
Fascinated by that later.
You get another glimpse of it with the horses when they're on the movie set. They're trying to control them, and the horse randomly just almost murders someone.
They don't listen to his advice.
Exactly.
And yeah, there's another. It's a close call, not as dangerous, but yeah, the reoccurring theme here is taming animals, no matter what it is. Taming something that's not human, that's not traditionally domesticated in that way. You need, and even
That's what I'm
horses.
saying. Man trying to conquer beast and
Yeah.
tame it and use it for show, basically,
It's a very big reoccurring theme throughout the entire picture.
and use it as spectacle.
yeah, if you
Jordan
can
Peele's
profit
own words, he's a big spectacle movie, but it's a spectacle movie in a way that's like taking advantage of. It's like meta spectacle. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's about spectacle, and in itself is a spectacle movie because it's, everybody's fucking seeing it. It's a summer blockbuster right now.
It's aware that one of my favorite parts of this movie was that it dates back to the original motion picture, right? The still photography they used to make the motion picture. I loved tying that into this movie. I thought that was very fascinating. That's just like a great way to educate a general public by
Yeah.
putting it into a feature like that, and then you give these characters some backstory.
What'd you think of that intro with Keith David?
Fucking love Keith
Spooky
David.
and awesome. Yeah, I love Keith David also.
That was
I thought he was going to pull through.
my biggest disappointment
fuck,
in this
he's dead
movie
already?
was how limited his screen time was, because I felt like there was a really interesting story
Yeah,
with him
that
in there.
bummed me out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bum me out.
It bummed me out.
It was relevant to the story, but
Yeah.
it was needed, and he
Well,
pulled
then-
it off well.
And then
Oh,
getting a couple of flashbacks in there, I did appreciate those just to kind of provide some additional context.
Yeah, you see him again later for a brief moment in a flashback.
But I love that first scene, like when he dies, like all this shit's flying out of the sky, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Is it like a meteor shower or something going on right?
There's
You
like
don't
a
have any
house
context.
key stuck in the horse's ass.
That's one of those things that feels very Close Encounters-y. You know what I mean?
Yes. Close Encounters.
What do you think? Yeah, they say they try to explain it as a plane dumped it out or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
that's
what
where I
you
got
think when
the,
you're watching. Is there
that's
like a
where I got
plane
the Donnie
crash
Darko
or-
vibes to some degree too. It was like, oh, okay, I can kind of see that, like that unidentified plane. What the hell's going on here?
When you're first
I
watching,
knew it wasn't a plane just because I hadn't seen the trailers, and there's UFOs in the trailers.
When you're first watching this,
Oh yeah, but I just figured that's what they're trying to explain it.
you think it's an alien ship, so you're not thinking about it eating people and then spitting out their,
Well, I figured it was
accessories.
getting rid of their shit somehow, obviously, when I
guess,
saw
yeah.
that. But, like, you don't know how, and you're interested in why and whatnot.
Yes.
It's just one of those pieces of the puzzle. Then, basically, he goes, and you see
So after he loses
he's
his
selling the horse to what's-his-face. Can't remember his name now. It's been
Jupiter's
fucking
what-
2 weeks since I've seen
Jupiter.
this.
Yeah.
is that Jupiter? Is that his name, or is that I know that's the place?
Ken Yoon is. I think they call him Jupiter.
Yeah. Anyway, so we find out he's the grown-up version, and I'm not sure if it's at this exact moment. We find out he's the grown-up version of the kid that was on the set of this.
Yeah, because they talk
Show.
about the show while
Yeah.
they're at his.
And then
Yeah, they talk about it, and he's exploiting it still. Like, people stay lots of money to stay in this room
Fuck.
of
Yeah,
my
he
weird
Implied
shit.
it.
yeah, and the one thing that I thought was fascinating was that one ballet slipper or whatever type of shoe that girl was wearing.
Sticking straight up,
Sticking
unexplained.
straight up, unexplained. with
I
one
like
drop
that
of
it's
blood.
unexplained the
No,
whole time.
it is explained.
Yes.
It's in his head because he has it on the wall, displayed that one shoe in
Like
the
that.
glass
And
case.
so you
and
think his flashback's not
so
accurate?
in his head, he's seeing it as it's displayed on his wall, standing up.
Wait, what?
I see
fuck are
what
you
he's
saying?
saying. So he's saying that like he's got this displayed this way. So in his flashback memories to this, he sees it how he currently has it displayed. So it's vertical, just like that in that glass.
Because he
display
have it on
box.
it. He has it on his wall.
So his memory is fleeting.
Was it in the wall? It looked like it was still just in a.
It
weird
was in
position.
basically a glass
it's,
case.
It's standing up either way, no matter where.
Yeah,
it
but
is.
I could see that. I mean,
So supposedly that's. I didn't come up with that on my own. I heard someone else explain it that way.
Well, that's a theory for sure.
But what else would
I-
it be? When I watched it the first time, I was like, "Is there some kind of gravity thing going on with an alien ship?" And that made the chimp go crazy too, and that's making the shoe
and
stand up. I was like,
it does leave you asking a lot of questions throughout this, which I
like to
appreciated.
think that the ballet slipper is something else, more David Lynchian, where it just doesn't have an explanation in reality. It's just like, yeah, it'd be weird if there was
if
a
there
ballet
is an
slipper.
explanation, then that's the most.
Well, a
logical
terrifying
one, I guess.
situation to have something like that at the end of it. You'd be like, "What in the fuck is this?" After all of that,
Yeah, well,
Terrifying. I don't
that's
know.
the thing. They also aren't necessarily his flashbacks because they're not in his point of view. Some
No,
of the
you see
looks
him.
are, but like you see him, so it's not necessarily
That's-
a flashback.
that's
It's a
a-
film flashback.
All flashbacks do that though, where it doesn't show it from the person's perspective.
I wouldn't
though.
say all do. If
know.
you're trying to show him from the
Most.
perspective, if you were trying to do with that explanation, it would definitely be from the perspective. I feel like.
so he has this crazy collection of stuff though. So there's the slipper, or the shoe, whatever you want to call it. Ballet slipper is what it looked like to me, but that could have just be because it was standing upright and looked like that. It was a slip-on shoe. And then you also see the balloon or the birthday party hat that the chimpanzee takes off and sets on the ground after he's kind of done with his rampage. And since we're talking about this, like we can skip forward ahead to the next flashback where he kind of talks about and sees And he almost
I'd
does
rather
the-
wait because it's so relevant
Okay. We'll circle back
to that moment.
But he's very proud of this, and his sister is super impressed with everything that's there.
Yeah, she wants him to sell the whole ranch to this guy. She's like, fuck it, just get rid of it and sell everything to him. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't think Dad will want me to do that, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think he says that out loud, but it's kind of like implied, you know what I mean?
He's
Like, you get
very
that vibe.
quiet. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue.
But
and
he
I-
pulls off just the acting of that character, like
you
in
know-
his face and his
yeah, I was gonna
mannerisms.
say, you know what he's feeling because he's able to express it.
He's
through his
annoyed by
physical
everyone and
mannerisms.
everything.
Keke Palmer is just awesome in this movie.
Is that the sister?
Yes, she's amazing.
Well, it just felt like such real life characters because she's like just vaping randomly throughout the movie. Like I felt that was an
Exactly.
interesting choice because most movies will do everything they can not to have any smoking in there, but it feels like real people because they're doing shit we see people do in real life every day.
Yes, for sure.
I'm not saying I want smoking back in movies by any means, but I just felt that was timely and accurate to real life.
I don't have a problem with smoking in movies. I mean, I don't want people smoking just to smoke, but like characters who would smoke, yeah, it's a character trait for sure. Some people smoke. I'm not against taking shit out just for weird reasons like that. I mean, I get it if it's a kids movie. Like, you don't want literally a G movie with people smoking cigarettes.
You're not taking out the extreme violence, so don't take out anything else.
Yeah.
What are you saying? You don't want people to smoke, but you want people to kill each other? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, and then we see
He keeps... Wait. What? It's hard just because we don't have notes, but like...
well, the next scene that I feel like this is kind of in place here, where we see at Jupiter's farm, like the kind of the night setting, and then all the lights down where that little horseshoe shape is for the show, and like then you see like that the ship leave for the first time.
I think that is close to what we're at, because you also have where she steals the guy's horse from him
Yes,
and puts that up.
as a decoy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's very intentional. And then
the
You're
decoy would
realizing
have
it.
came later. We
Yeah,
haven't
that's what
even-
I'm thinking,
We
like,
haven't even
after
talked
that.
about them seeing it at the ranch yet.
yeah, and so that's kind of what you're at there. And the first scenes are great because you're like, is this a ship? Is this not?
No, you're not. You're like, this is a ship.
Yeah, I didn't see that
That's,
coming.
I think, the exact explanation. You think it's a UFO the whole time until
The first thing
he says it's not.
well, I think the sister said, or someone said, it's not moving like a ship, and I was like, well,
Well, I mean, it's moving
Alien
like a UFO you would
alien
expect
ships,
to
alien ships move
in a
kind of
UFO
wild.
movie
yeah.
for sure. I like how its look is pretty classic UFO too.
Yeah, it's gonna
Looks
say
like
it's
right
very
off that
much
Mulder's
aluminum.
poster.
Yeah. But you get to see down there at Jupiter's, and that's when you realize how close that is, and like that's why he doesn't go investigate. Because in the movie, I recall being like, "Why the fuck doesn't he go check out what's going on down there?" Because that's after the first horse gets out and goes down there. Can't figure out why the fucking horse ran. Yeah. And yet he doesn't go all the way down there and to investigate. That was weird.
Yeah,
What?
we ummed at the same time.
No.
It's in stereo. We're available.
I'm trying to think of what happens next. Is that where they go and get cameras?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
when
that's
they
what I was
basically
thinking.
involve Fry's.
Which is funny. That's Fry's like electronics, which is still a thing in Phoenix, or it was.
I think they went out of business
Yeah.
after this movie shot. Like, I think they went out of business.
Yeah,
during
I heard
COVID.
someone say they're out of business completely now, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they were down to only a few locations before, and I think they
funny.
finally went under, which is,
Well, there's Fry's grocery stores. They were at the Kroger,
yep.
and those are still open. But at the Fry's electronics are
Oh,
closed.
Yeah, it's one of those Kroger. Yeah.
It's funny. And I remember driving past and being like, Fry's electronics, that's weird.
Well, I felt like Circuit City went out, and I think Best Buy is kind of.
But that checks out for the region, too, because they're in where? New Mexico? Where are they at?
LA?
California, I guess,
Yeah.
technically, yeah.
Outside of LA.
Yeah,
It's just that I'm used to the ranch, and it kind of looks like those other states.
Well,
and they,
Southwest America,
yeah,
right? You know, it kind
checks
of has
out.
that vibe.
Yeah, they're getting all the cameras set up. That's interesting. This guy, this is a little bit of a movie thing where he just is kind of like, yeah, I'm going to hang out with you guys and just stalk you, basically, and they're okay with it.
Yeah, and he
But
turns
it's
out
fine.
Well, he talks them into letting them install it because he's like, "You're not going to be able to do this yourself."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's
then he
curious
kind of
about-
figures out what they're doing because they're pointing the cameras at the sky and shit, and then he, despite not having permission, watches their camera feed from the store.
Yeah. Is that... Yeah, this is where they've... gotten a decoy, isn't it? Don't they steal a decoy now for the cameras?
That's pretty early on, so I think it's probably around.
Because then the kids come
get
in those masks.
Well, that decoy
Yes.
has the flag. What do you call it?
Yeah, the Back to
Flag?
the Future flag to get stuck to
taper.
Marty. You know, just
Exactly.
the colored. I don't know what you call those, but it's basically your colored flag with a little triangle pennant flag, I guess maybe.
I don't know, something.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating though. I love that decoy being set up there, and like they're like, "Don't come in here." And he's like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" And then you realize like that she's trying to hide the fact that she stole it. That works out pretty well. And that scene that you're talking about though, in the barn where those lights flick back on, you're like, "Oh shit, we're gonna get something here."
And then you see the creepy movements of the thing, and you're like, "Oh, interesting. So there's aliens." Mm-hmm. And it's misleading you more, and it's awesome. And that's the first time I think he goes, "Nope." and
And that was very fascinating with the way that first alien stands up, right? Which you later find out is the kid just fucking with him from the Juniper's ranch.
yeah, because they stole the horse, so they decided to fuck.
I was
with
sitting there watching. I was like,
Yeah.
"Is this actual aliens? Something?"
No, well, it looks terrible on purpose, and you're like, "What the fuck?" And
Well,
then
it looks
But it is
off,
terrifying
but it's
because it looks
creepy
terrible.
The way they
It's
did
great.
it, and I'm
it
like,
reminds me of like something from the late '80s.
I mean, because if I was an alien, I would dress up like a fucking alien that people expect just to terrorize them even more.
that's what they do in Fire in the Sky, don't they? Kind of, they're in that gray suit.
Oh, they're in the spacesuit before they're.
It looks like the traditional grays, but then they're like little tan, shrunken men
Right.
looking fuckers. And
So he also at that when they're talking about that's when he gives him a flyer to his event, which is where they go later to the fuckery where he's sacrificing horses to this UFO monster.
Well, and they've also
but
talked to the
now-
cinematographer at this point, right? And they've made that first phone call to him, like, "Hey, you want to get the
Guy
shot?"
from The Crow.
And he's making some.
I was trying to think of where I seen
He's
him
the
from.
villain at the end of The Crow.
Okay.
He's great in this. I don't necessarily love how he was written at the end, but at the same time, it's
Yeah,
fitting just to kind of like be like, "Fuck it, this dude's old enough and doesn't."
Well,
give
it's like
shit.
a spectacle thing again. Like
Yeah.
he was so concerned about filming it, he didn't even consider that he was about to just fucking die.
I thought maybe he wanted to. Well, no, because did he think they'd be able to recover the camera he
The
had?
film,
when he's
yeah, I
getting
mean,
sucked
you'd be
up
able to
in there?
get that film back. And
I thought that's
expose
what
it.
he wanted to do. He wanted to.
I don't think
film.
he was doing it intentionally. I think it was more supposed to be like he's just so fucking in awe of this thing, and he's like, I got to get a good shot of this shit.
Well, I loved the stuff they provide around his character as you see him in that editing booth, where like he's got a lot of animals fighting over like top of the food chain type stuff, right? There's a lot of this subcontext that it's almost subliminal in the fact that you're just seeing what he's editing, and it isn't really consequential to the story, but it's very consequential to what he is actually interested in his personal time.
So,
Why he ends up there.
so this is the first show they did with an audience, right? This is the first sacrifice of a horse with an
Yeah,
audience.
I can't. I'd have to
supposedly.
watch it again to be clear on the dialogue, but it seems like it's the first show in the act. But it also seems like he's just lying to the audience like they do it all the time.
Yes.
Right. But it's the first time there's people witnessing it, or otherwise.
It seems like it, and including one of the women who was on the show with him who got
The
her face ripped
co-star
off.
that we assumed
I
was
remember
dead,
seeing that in
yeah.
the trailer, and I'm like, "What's this gonna, fit into the story?"
That
with
was
this
a very
woman with her-
interesting choice.
No, what I like about this is right before that scene happens, that's when you see the rest of the chimp scene. Mm-hmm. And they're literally showing you him witness this fucking brutality. And that is the scene where I was in the theater like, oh, fuck.
But the chimp is set off by that balloon popping, which is kind of
the balloons
foreshadowing
keep
for
popping,
later.
yeah.
And
And
well,
he
in addition to the
showing him that you cannot control everything like
Yeah.
a beast like this. You cannot tame it. And yet then it cuts to him trying to tame the UFO.
I do kind of wish
And-
that we had seen more of the graphic nature of the chimp attack.
You-
maybe-
Well-
I think your imagination's more powerful. I don't want to see it. If you see it, it makes it comical and
I'm not saying it as
goofy.
a negative, but when I was watching, I'm like, I want to see.
I was terrified
chimp
enough.
is-
I didn't
for
want to see
me,
it.
seeing him under that table hiding, I think this gives him his false sense of security later on in the movie to be sacrificing these horses because he's going to fist bump the chimpanzee, right? And he thinks it's okay. Then it gets shot. So we don't really know if the chimpanzee would have killed him
That
or
was a
not.
loud gunshot too.
But I think that gave him the superficial feeling that he can connect with animals in a way other people can't, since he didn't get killed.
Yeah.
Because you see the father come through the set there and kind of cause a distraction and get killed. In addition, and then we find out that the co-star, the older sister on the show,
Got her face ripped off.
has survived somehow, right? And And that's fascinating, too, because she's there, and he's trying to show her this spectacle, even though she's already been through that trauma. So, clearly, this is like a man that has never accepted his trauma and has just tried to, like, profit off it, and it's very fucking disturbing when you really think of it in those terms.
Well, he's exploiting his own trauma and exploiting new shit at the same time and not learning the lesson from the first time that he saw as a child.
And he invites her back out there to see this trauma bullshit, and you're like, what in the fuck?
And this is where the other terrifying scene happens, where
they have the horse in the basically, they're trying to get the horse to go, right? Trying to get it to run.
He's trying to fucking get it to go out there and get sucked up, and then the thing decides, no, I think I'm gonna fucking just eat the audience here. And you. And this scene is terrifying once it shows like the insides of the ship and people being sucked up through like the orange glowing fucking insides and how claustrophobic, and you just hear everybody screaming. That was terrifying to me, like in Fire Walk with Me. Fire in the Sky.
Yes.
Man, I gotta watch this movie.
No, that's that was well done, right?
Yeah, no, it terrified the shit out of me, and that's what I was thinking.
The claustrophobic feel that it gives you, and then you're like, wait a second, because at first you still don't even really realize that this is kind of truly its own creature. Did they have that discussion yet? I mean, you see them getting sucked up in there, and you don't know if they're getting processed to be eaten by
I think he
something
had just like recently realized it because he was going there to save his horse from being sacrificed.
Okay, yeah. But as I recall, like, it just still felt like, you see them going in there, so you don't know if it's actually digesting them or what else. Because
well, yeah, you don't at that point know exactly what's going on.
Because there's also
I think he knows.
There's also that cubic shape you kept seeing throughout the movie, and
that's the view from there, basically, like on the inside and on the outside
Exactly.
and exit there. Very interesting. I liked how the inside of it looked like when it was showing those creepy views and stuff.
some of the creepy views I loved. The only thing I didn't like was the cube face coming out of it at the end. I was like,
well, when it became such a weird thing at the end, that was for sure like, I guess you want to be climactic somehow.
yeah.
But that was my least favorite part for sure, was how it was just like this weird amorphous, it looked like just a white jellyfish or something, I don't know, or a white dress.
Yeah, it started to look like a jellyfish.
Well, it looked like a jellyfish,
alright,
but also
but-
looked robotic because it had that cube come out and make those interactions. And you're like, okay, I like the floating jellyfish in concept, but I didn't like the combination of the two. I like the big sails ability of it, and I like
Well,
how...
before we get there, too, we have the TMZ motorcycle guy shows up, too,
And-
because What's-His-Face has been dead for... And that's basically why TMZ is there. Is like, what'd you have to do with this guy's death, huh?
Yeah, they're basically, yeah, this is like, this cuts right through your property. You're the only people buy them.
2 people from this fucking sitcom are dead now who were part of a massacre then. So that would be TMZ worthy. It makes sense why they're there.
The only thing on the TMZ that didn't make a lot of sense to me was the mirrored helmet. But
Oh, right, because you think he's like some government agent or some shit showing up who's
Yeah.
or a UFO hunter or some
And
garbage.
that was a good, and that looked like that guy knew way more than we did, because you're like, okay, we've already seen the horse react to that sphere. We see that, or I don't know what you call that device, but whatever.
Yeah.
The mirror ball, right? And then he makes one at home, and we see him doing that to just kind of not spook the horse, because the horse is going to need to be around that. I think that's I don't know if it's a light
don't know
measuring
what it
device
has
or
to do
whatever,
with.
but
It was funny when the bike shuts down, that guy goes flying.
Yeah.
oh yeah, and they even talk about it like that's when this gets there.
Well, it wouldn't matter if it's an electric bike or a regular bike. There's still an electric
The
component.
fucking
Yeah.
thing chasing him when he's on the horse, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because he tries to save the guy. Mm-hmm. This is where it starts doing all the crazy transforming and...
Well, then it becomes the T-Rex because you can't look at it, right? You know, it's like, don't
Oh,
look
yeah,
at
that
it.
is an interesting thing. He has that theory he comes up with. I think if you look at it. He comes up with that about halfway through it.
Well, he thinks of it from earlier when it spooked the horse with that mirror thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it triggers a instinct or to
Oh,
attack or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's
Okay.
where he got that idea from. Was from earlier.
It's fascinating.
Well, you have this giant scene in the desert, right? And I love, again, how, a good scary movie doesn't always have to take place in the dark. Like, you have shit going on in broad daylight that's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
And
is
that's
this-
much harder to pull off.
It's not as... it's a different kind of... It's not even straight horror, you know what I mean?
No.
But it's definitely still thrilling.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't have gained anything being at night. It wouldn't be scarier or anything. Daytime horror is a legit thing, and David Lynch, you know.
There's a lot going on
Big
for
on
it to
it.
be at night to follow what's happening too. So.
It just, yeah.
But also being in the daylight, it's different than what you're used to with horror films, so that actually introduces something different, which makes you more afraid, I think.
And basically that's when the thing starts fucking with Keke Palmer's character. And she ends up running over to the Jupiter Ranch. What is it? It's not Jupiter.
They call it Jupiter's, but I mean, that's
They call
the
him
ranch area,
Jupiter, I
whatever
don't
it is.
know. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that his place or whatever.
Jupiter Ranch or
The
something.
little Western theme park shit. And she's running through that, and she uses the thing to take pictures of it.
Yeah, I love that.
That
how we-
well that they set up earlier when she looked into it and ruined their picture.
Analog camera, no digital.
Yep.
And she uses that to take pictures of it while it's fucking dying because she let the big stuffed balloon animal go or something. What was it?
The cowboy.
Float?
The floating cowboy.
It's like a big balloon of Jupiter, I think.
Oh, there you go.
And we forget that's the whole reason why it ate all those people, because it ate that fake horse and it fucked it up for a little while. And then it came back and did that as revenge, basically. It was like, fuck you.
So it eats the giant balloon and it explodes.
Yeah, and the balloon pops
basically
basically
shreds
inside
it
it
up.
and shreds up the creature. Yeah.
And then she sees him on the horse in the fog, basically, the dust.
Because you're not sure up to that point if he's still alive or not.
Right. Well, you assumed kind of like that he's dead, but like you are also like maybe he's still alive.
Is the Fries guy still alive? Or did they show him?
I can't even fucking recall. It's been 2 weeks. I need to watch again. I really loved it though.
The cinematographer's death is very fascinating. And to your point, like, I wasn't thinking of that the way you described it in the theater, so it makes a lot more sense that he was just so interested in capturing the shot, he didn't fucking care the consequences.
That's how I see it.
That's what I took from it. He wanted to record being sucked up in it and everything.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was wondering. I was like, how would he ever expect to develop his footage if he's suicidal for that?
Assuming
we
that
don't
he
ever see
knew
the
that
camera get back,
that camera would survive being spit out, I guess.
Yeah, and the fact that he had more than one like hand crank cameras, I thought was very cool. Right, a
Well, the film
cinematographer
would
that-
survive.
Again, when we're
the
talking
fall,
about
at
this whole thing as the spectacle thing, how it just draws people to it.
Yeah,
That's kind of where we're getting why the Fries guy is just like, oh, I'm going to come and fucking basically just be here now and I'm your best friend. And same with the cinematographer guy who was kind of not interested the first time he heard from them and then was like, all right, there's some real shit going on. Sure.
then we
I'll
had
came
that.
down and then was like literally blown the fuck away because he still doesn't know if he was expecting, what was he expecting, you know?
And I love how we get fucked with that whole scene earlier on with the mantis, praying mantis in there, just
On the
being
camera.
blocking. You're like, what are
That's
we going to
funny.
get here? Because this movie kind of misleads you in the fact that you expect that they're going to try to get this money shot to be famous, but the spectacle is this experience that they're all living through, right? It's not about the end result after the fact. It's all about just how they're dealing with this shit now and how she winds up getting the shot anyway with that basically ancient Polaroid, because it's basically instant film exposure through that hand crank well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's all based off like real legit technology and stuff there. So I love the fact that it's accurate with some of the way those things work.
Yeah, there's lots to be said about this movie. Like it feels like there's lots of deep themes that I feel like I'll uncover more when I watch it again. You know, like
This one seems like it's got high replayability just to kind of get deeper and deeper within some of the subcontext of what's going on with the creature, what's going on with the spectacle element, more about the animals itself and taming creatures. It just seems like there's a lot going on in there too.
yeah.
We didn't mention that it creates like a fake cloud to hide in.
Yeah, where everyone
that's
kinda
that's
sees that.
I like that too. That's a cool element.
That's kind of how they.
Yeah, because is that a little floating
how
On the
space
video
station?
where it stays still, that's cool.
That's
yeah.
how they figure
Yeah.
out that it's always up there.
And then he's like,
Yeah.
I've been staring at this same cloud for 6 months. And like in the desert like that, there's going to be plenty of days where you don't have any cloud coverage. So that was fascinating too.
Now, is it like a shapeshifter? Is it supposed to have two different forms? Is it deliberately make itself look like a traditional UFO?
I don't know, but I mean, when it came and bled all over the fucking house, that scene was
Oh, yeah.
amazing. So terrifying.
Was that
about
in there.
that, too.
Was that supposed to be its blood or all the people it ate?
I think it's vomiting basically. Like
It was
it got
vomiting
some
or
internal
shitting,
damage.
basically.
It got
Yeah.
internal damage from the. Had the barbed wire already happened at that point, or
Can't recall. Have to watch it again. Damn it! It's been
Yeah,
2
but
weeks.
The damage that it took.
Yeah,
to that,
I like that bleeding all over the house.
When I love how dirty the house was after the fact, like it just stained that. Even though there's like rain going on, it like legit comes over there, and then that whole creepy scene where he's trying to like just hide in the truck. Mm-hmm. They're trying to escape.
Sunglasses
in the house
at night playing really slow.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Creepy as fuck.
it's already. I've used it as a TikTok sound.
Yeah, it's great. Well done.
Someone uploaded it to YouTube as a part of the Nope soundtrack at that speed, like the whole song.
Nice. Classy.
Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. And even just talking back about it now and picking up on some of the things I didn't notice, just chatting with you guys about it, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for another viewing of this.
It's good to watch a movie that actually can be analyzed and needs to be analyzed, and isn't just popcorn fluff.
I was going to say, we watch a lot of stuff that's easily digestible, and you're not talking a lot about development.
You don't think about it afterwards at all.
Well, that's the thing
other
is,
than to talk about it on the
this
podcast.
movie, I think, still works, even if you weren't. If you were a little bit person who didn't care about themes and interesting subtext and things like that, and you were just watching it for what it is, it's still probably a fun movie.
It still works as a popcorn film.
Yeah. But I think, I like the layers it has in it.
So there's something for everybody. It doesn't have to be just stupid, meaningless, empty crap.
That was my least favorite thing about it, was some of the alien design with the cube integrated into this very organic looking form. I'm like, okay, so I found that is there something
distracting
living
as well.
additional into that, and like maybe there's a symbiotic relationship? It doesn't really explain it. It doesn't really matter, but it takes my mind to a place where I'm over analyzing that shit, and I want to just be focused on actually what's happening on screen. Other than that, the creature being able to change and look like a wind sail felt very much like an ocean creature and had a lot of cool elements to it. And like we can kind of see how it can kind of change its shape based on what it's doing and everything. So
Yeah.
Didn't you say you had some kind of criticism about the ending or something?
Yeah, but it
towards
was
the
just
end
the design of the creature. That's literally it.
after it changed.
I wasn't a fan. I just like the UFO shape more. That's really all it is. It's not even like a real criticism. It's just like I find it not as aesthetically pleasing.
it wasn't as scary to me as I was hoping it would be based on the terrifying shit it was doing, right? I just didn't feel like, oh, that's not very scary. More like a 6-foot turkey, you know? But overall, when you look at it, it's great. And it doesn't feel, again, it's another movie that I feel like hasn't been done a million times because you're doing UFO in a new way, right? We haven't experienced a UFO film that I haven't personally seen that felt like this.
I mean,
There's callbacks.
It reminds me of 3 different movies, but it's still a new, fresher, interesting take on it with new subtext that's not in any of the other ones that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for
The
sure.
whole point of Signs is the signs part that comes into play about his wife's death at the climax, where you realize that his wife's last words were oddly relevant to saving her son's life from the aliens at the very end of the movie during that whole fucking climax scene. Like, that's what that movie's about. Like, do you believe in signs, and that whole discussion they have. And so the subtext is different there, but it's also more in your face. It's part of the story. It's not sub. It's just text.
I just mean they didn't go the traditional route with alien presence themselves, right? By not having them be like creatures or anthropomorphic in a way that we're expecting them to be like humans in any way, shape, or form, right? You kind of have that false positive with the kids from the ranch fucking with them. So you've got something fresh as far as the creature goes, as far as that idea. I felt like that was pretty good. And then, you know, some of the things about it being stationary in the clouds and them taking a while to realize that. It just didn't feel like completely rehashed. It felt like it was influenced heavily by other things, but it didn't feel like, oh, okay. So, looking forward to seeing it again, but I'll probably wait till it's on video.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I believe that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
Yes.
Well,
We'll see you in San Antonio.
follow us on Twitter, because you never know what can happen there. It's a wild place. Good night.